This old idea of you have different levels of change. I think in our work, in coaching or in therapy, we're really interested especially in identity level change. You can talk about that as either second order change or third order change. So the notion of generative change, and a lot of my work is called generative self or generative change. It's this idea that when people come into coaching or come into therapy, they're looking or they're challenged to be able to create something in their life that they've never done before. That to create an outcome, to create an experience that's beyond where they've been before. For those types of change to operate within the normal box of your identity will not get the job done.
No.
It will, that normal box of identity, your ordinary way of being, which allows you to get around the world just fine. It's your business as usual. To use that system to try to create generative change, you can't do it. You're basically rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. So in order to generate change, to go beyond where you've been before, you have to first shift your state. That's what we try to do in hypnotic work. You know, once we get beyond booga booga booga, it's trying to help people to let go of their old beliefs, to let go of their old assumptions, and to get back into this more creative state where we can bring in the intention, this is what I want, and we can begin to create new patterns for being able to realize that.
Yeah, because Erickson talked very much about rigidity, didn't he?
He did. It was his big thing. He said clients come into therapy because they're rigid. They have one way, in the area of their problem, they have one way of viewing or doing things. And he said, your task as a therapist is to help them get unrigid, to help them have this sense, I can know this in this way, or I can do this in this way or that way. I have choice. And knowing I have this choice, I can explore which way to do it that fits best for me now. I was really deep into Erickson's work, and my dad died, and a month later my daughter was born. And I always had this place inside that I could click on, that I could do sort of Ericksonian trance, I could sort of channel it. And that part of me just shut down. It was really kind of scary. You know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And I couldn't do trance work for a while. And it struck me after using these traditions to say this is supposed to happen. You know, it's opening up this new change to say, I'm nobody's son anymore, and I'm somebody's father, so I have to find my own voice. So I started switching from doing trance to self-relations. Now, just briefly, self-relations, I say, has three major differences from Ericksonian work. The first is that trance gets externalized. Traditionally in hypnosis, you have to close your eyes, you go into trance, you go away from the world. That's great in certain contexts, but not so helpful in other contexts. So we look in self-relations, this comes partly from my work in Aikido, is it how to bring the trance out here, if you will.
So it's useful in virtually any context.
Yeah, you can stay present in the present moment, and that your unconscious is out here. Second is that trance becomes much more somatically connected. So you get this idea in some trance that it's a sort of ethereal state where you're disembodied. And again, I think that has its limitations in terms of really taking these trance experiences and integrating them deeply into your embodied self that can then carry them out into the world. So we talk about how the unconscious is in the body in a lot of ways. It's one form of the unconscious. So we ask questions like, energetically, where do you feel that in your body? And ask people to attune to that and use that to guide themselves. And finally, and perhaps most relevantly, in self-relations, we try to internalize the hypnotist. So even in Erickson's work, there's a sense that if we're working, you're the subject, client, and I'm the therapist, the unconscious is there and the conscious mind is here. So I've got to have the technique and you go ahead and experience it. This is part of the problem, not the solution in a lot of ways, that a person is carrying somebody else's suggestions. So I say, if this stuff is so generative, why can't somebody learn to do it for themselves? Why do they have to go to a hypnotist every time? Maybe it's good to go to a hypnotist to learn something. But then can you carry that same way that Erickson was speaking or a generative hypnotist was speaking to the challenging places inside of you? Can you speak in the same way to yourself? And so we focus on the cognitive self and the somatic self, or what in hypnosis is called the conscious and the unconscious, and say it's the connection between that that's the focus of self-relations.
Thank you, Stephen Gilligan.
You're welcome.